Right now, here to grade what the senator has said so far is our friend Dennis Neal, and we bring in Pat Toomey, president of the Club for Growth. Pat, welcome back to the program. What'd you hear, Pat? I know you've been critical. The club's been critical of Mr. McCain. What'd you hear?
Well, let me give him his due to begin with. Senator McCain's always been great on spending. It's true he was a fighter against the earmarks and the waste before Tom Coburn and Jim DeMint got to the Senate. He's been great on trade. But he really loses me on taxes. Larry, you know, in 2003, it was when it really counted, and he didn't just vote against the Bush tax cuts. He voted for all the amendments to gut it, to shrink it, to weaken it, and he used the kind of class warfare rhetoric we expect from John Edwards, talking about how it tilted things to the rich when, in fact, as you know, it cut taxes for everybody. I don't think that John McCain gets the whole supply side. I don't think he believes in the supply side argument. I don't think he believes in the virtues of lowering marginal rates and getting the stronger economic growth that comes from it.
Despite what he says. I mean, look, I'm not taking sides. I'm not taking sides.
Larry, you know what?
It's just interesting to me that Senator McCain seems to have a different message. He's much more emphatic about keeping the Bush tax cuts and seeking more with a flat tax type commission. I'm just saying, it sounds like he has a more optimistic pro-growth message, Pat. Is
Larry,
that possible?
This is a Republican primary for the presidency of the United States. There's about 4 Republicans in the whole country who don't think we should keep the Bush tax cuts permanent, right? So, of course, he's got to be for that. You know, and I'd like to see more specifics. A commission, you made the point, well, we don't need another commission.
Well, I agree with that. Dennis Neal, Pat Toomey, the subject is Senator John McCain and other candidates. Pat, any new revelations and insights after watching the second half of that? Interesting, Dennis Neal mentioned earlier, I haven't heard anybody talk about the internet tax moratorium or, for that matter, the cell phone tax moratorium, both of which strike me as quite positive.
Absolutely terrific. But the big news, Larry, that you need to stress here is the persuasiveness of Whoopi Goldberg.
Isn't that great?
Oh, well, she turned John McCain around on the death tax. He's always been in favor of keeping the death tax, as recently as 2005. Publicly declaring he was going to vote to keep the death tax. But I heard him say to you that he agrees with Whoopi Goldberg. So I want to get her out on the campaign trail and bringing people around.
I think that people should really seriously consider Ms. Goldberg as a possible Treasury Secretary. I really do, because this is clearly a talented woman from the grassroots up. She knows the deal. I was pretty impressed with that. Is this Whoopi Goldberg thing, you know, we could kid about it, okay, because she's from a different culture and a different part. But what she said, abolishing the death tax, and she said, wait a minute, it's not just for rich people. If I want to give dollars to my kids, I've already paid income taxes. Shouldn't I have it? Dennis, what do you think of this Whoopi Goldberg influence?
Well, I think the good thing about it is even though she happens to be a very rich person because she's in the entertainment business and she's done very well, is, you know, we do have our first generation, or one of the first generations of African Americans who have built their own wealth, a whole new upper class. And why should they have to give a big chunk of it to government just because they had the misfortune of dying?
In a double tax or even a triple tax situation.
It kind of neutralizes the Democrats who want to make this a class warfare thing when you have people like Whoopi coming out in favor of it.
Pat Toomey, Senator McCain took a whack at Governor Huckabee's fair tax. Do you have a thought on the fair tax?
You know, I think the fair tax is really Mike Huckabee's smokescreen for his own tax record. I mean, let's face it, this guy was a serial tax hiker when he was governor, a big advocate of expanding government, the state government. He's an advocate of expanding the federal government, so at least he's consistent. But I think he knows the fair tax probably doesn't have the legs to move. It's a way for him to change the subject when people are talking about his own record.
Have you or the club come out with an endorsement yet?
No. We haven't. As far as you look at this field, it's pretty clear. There's a few guys who have solid pro-growth record. That's Giuliani, it's Romney, it's Fred Thompson. They've consistently had pro-growth records in the various offices they've served in. They're taking a very solid pro-growth positions on the campaign trail. Senator McCain, you know, his record is just way too mixed on this, Larry. You know, he supported the big Patients' Bill of Rights, which is way too much regulation. He supports a cap-and-trade approach on carbon emissions, which is very, very anti-growth. And as I said earlier, I don't believe he's really with us on tax policy.
Dennis Neal, at this juncture, we don't know a lot because the primaries haven't started yet. January 3rd, Iowa caucus, then we go right into New Hampshire. At this juncture, who do you reckon is the investor's best friend?
Well, I liked what I heard out of McCain today, especially with all the tax cuts. But I think from the investor standpoint, now I talked to a guy who's been a Wall Street type for many, many years, and he just says by far and away, it's Mitt Romney. And one big thing is the guy, you know, helped start Bain Capital, private equity. That is the engine that is driving this economy now, even though they've gone some hard times lately. And he understands what investors need and want. And then, of course, he gets great praise for running the Olympics, which is its own kind of business when he ran in Salt Lake City.
With the jitters, it's where I started with Senator McCain. Inflation jitters, recession jitters, of course, housing recession, subprime, a volatile stock market of late. It's been a high market. It's been a great market, but volatile. With those jitters, are investors shopping around? Are investors looking at Democrats, for example? I mean, we see some Wall Street leaders, but I'm interested in rank-and-file investors. Do you think they'll desert the Republican Party in this election?
You know, we just saw a big New York Times poll a week or two ago saying that the Republicans were by far more uncertain about their candidates. And, you know, but I just can't see Republicans deserting for Democrats. All the Democrats want to raise taxes.
Pat Toomey, the investor class, which votes 2 out of every 3 votes in the last 4 or 5 elections, usually they run about a dozen points ahead of the Democrats in their voting patterns, Pat. Are the Republicans going to have to earn them back this year?
Yeah, but they will, because the Democrats are just so bad. Taxes, trade, regulation, the Democrats would all be a disaster for the economy, so Republicans have a chance to hold on to the investor class.
We'll leave it there. Dennis, Neil, thank you very much. Pat Toomey, I really appreciate it. Thanks very much.